welcome everyone. My name is Greg Powell and I'm with MSD. I'm the construction manager and engineering manager over collection systems. Appreciate you coming tonight to hear what we have to say and to also get your input on the I64 Grinstead CSO Basin project. In our midst tonight is Councilman Bill Hollander. We always want to welcome him, and he's been a great help to MSD and I'm sure to his community here, so we welcome him. Here's what our agenda for this evening. We're going to talk about why we're here, our public outreach process, get to know a little bit about the audience, and for those who might be taking the surveys online or input online, talk about the project in particular and the next steps and some feedback from those here tonight and then those who might participate on the web later. While we're here, I just want to point out, we've done this in other public presentations. We always like to bring out some history. All those dots on the map represent locations where during rain events, sewage and rainwater leaves the system and it's not supposed to. In dry weather, the wastewater stays in the system and gets treated at a wastewater treatment facility. But in wet weather, these systems were built many, many years ago and they're overwhelmed by the capacity. And so at these locations, the combined sewer and rainwater can leave the system. So you can see it's not just isolated in this neighborhood here, it's throughout the county, a lot downtown within the Waterson Expressway area. But what is a combined sewer? Again, that's primarily, if you think about inside the Waterson Expressway, it's the older systems that originally the combined sewers discharged directly to the rivers and streams. So before there was treatment plants, the water was carried away in pipes and discharged directly into Beargrass Creek or the Ohio River, some body of water, just to get it away from the source. Wastewater treatment in this community was added in 1958. Dry weather flow, again, when it's not raining, all that sewage flows to one of the 5 regional water treatment centers, water quality treatment centers. But some wet weather flow is discharged to prevent flooding. In other words, the capacity is not there to get it cleared to the plant. The old collection system is small, and so therefore you can see there's a weir that's constructed. So the large pipes, when there's low flow, it flows to the plant, but when it's overwhelmed, then there is some overflow that is discharged. So how can we control overflows? There are some things that we all can do. There's source control projects where green infrastructure, where you capture rainwater before it would enter into a combined sewer system, infiltrate into the ground. Downspout disconnections, there are many areas that the downspouts are connected directly to a sewer system or a combined sewer system. Again, so every time it rains, it puts that rainwater right into where it can overwhelm the sewage capacity in the sewer, then the carrier sewer. Sump pump disconnections, many houses have sump pumps. It's an illegal connection to connect directly to the sewer system. Sump pumps need to be discharged just outside the house where they can go across the ground or infiltrate into the ground or into a storm sewer system. And there's sewer rehabilitation projects. That would be pipes that might have been installed in the 50s, early 60s, might be vitrified clay pipe or other older pipe that have leaky connections, may have cracked over time, so when the groundwater is higher, when it rains, again, clean water gets into that system and overwhelms when it should only be carrying wastewater. Another method is gray infrastructure projects. That's new pipeline projects, pump station expansions so that the capacity at the pump stations aren't overwhelmed. That can cause an overflow. Wastewater treatment plant expansions and storage basins. And that's what we've been out talking to the public about, and that's why we've been here several times to talk about the I64 Grinstead project. That is a gray infrastructure project, and it's basically a combined sewage overflow basin. There are several spread throughout the county. They're downstream from where combined sewer overflows occur. So you can see this is the I64 Grinstead. There are 4 CSOs nearby that we will be capturing overflows so that they don't go into the creek. There's the Logan Street Basin. There's 13 CSOs upstream that in rain events discharge directly into Beargrass Creek, but that Logan Street Basin intercepts those flows before they get into the creek. And these basins basically retain that combined sewer overflow that would have gone into the stream, holds it until after the rain event when the sewer then has capacity again, and so we keep it in the system and it goes then to the treatment plant for treatment. Whereas again, prior to these basins, they would have gone directly into the stream. Where are we at in terms of the consent decree? There are 2 key deadlines here, 2020 and 2024. We're in this phase between 2016 and 2020 where we're addressing the combined sewer system projects. It's all of these basin projects that we've been out in the community talking about, and what we're here to talk about tonight at I64 and Grinstead. That's about a $400 million commitment to clean up the streams and improve public health and safety in these areas. And then after 2020 to 24, we will be addressing the separate sewer system, the sanitary sewer system improvements. We've shown this slide several times. This is part of our MSD's public outreach process. And I think the main thing to understand from this is what is our role as citizens here, and that's to, when you attend these meetings, when you're looking at it online, when you're trying to understand what we're talking about, is to, we come out with an orientation phase, and we want to help understand the roles and responsibilities that MSD has and obligations that we have under the consent decree, and then what input the public can have into these basins. We come back with a conceptual design for each particular basin or major project. We get some ideas and some preferences from the public. Then we come back with an advanced design, which is what we're here tonight to talk about, I64 and Grinstead. We talk about some ideas and preferences that have previously been expressed. We talk about what we can or cannot have incorporated into it, and we get an opportunity to have input on that again. And then finally, prior to construction, we'll come out before beginning work, and we'll have an opportunity to talk about who's the contractor, what's the schedule, what's the impacts, answer a lot of questions at that time. But again, this evening we're here for the advanced design. As far as this particular project, we had a public input meeting, IOAP, Integrated Overflow Abatement Program, public meeting here in January of 2012. We had our orientation meeting on September 16th of 2014 at Louisville Collegiate School. We had a conceptual design meeting, again, following the program that I just outlined back in March of this year. And now we're here to talk about what we learned from that, what we heard from you all, and what we've been able to incorporate, hopefully show you some things about that. Again, we're here tonight to talk about the advanced design. And again, you all have a chance to have some input on that and discuss what we've been able to do. But again, did everybody get a clicker so that we can get some little demographic information and get your preferences? Anybody need one? Also, I failed to mention, let's take a moment here right now. If you've got a cell phone, just please put that on silent. We are taping this for Metro TV. I failed to mention that earlier. So, and if you have questions, rather than interrupting, we have note cards. If you'd write those questions down at the end of the presentation, we will entertain those questions. All right, so if everybody has a clicker now, we'll start off. Nobody knows there's no number assigned, a name assigned to a clicker. They're all anonymous voting. We can all see the results tonight. Everybody gets an equal voice. It's not the one who clicks the hardest gets the most points. And then after this meeting, those people who take this survey online can also participate. All right, so let's take a minute here. How young are you? So just pick the age bracket there and punch that corresponding number on your clicker. Is that about it? All right. If you don't know how old you are by now, we're going to move on. All right. Okay. Just your gender. All right. We'll be closing the polling. All right. Pay attention to this map here, because we're going to have a few questions that relate to this map. If you look here, Area 1 is bounded by I-64, Lexington Road, in this area that we're at this evening. Area 2 is Lexington to Baxter, Bardstown to Cherokee, and then Area 3 is I-64, Grinstead, Frankfort to Payne. So kind of keep those areas in mind, 1, 2, and 3. And then 4 is everything outside those areas as we entertain these next questions. Where do you live, in Area 1, 2, or 3, or the rest of the city? All right. Again, the same identified areas. Where do you operate a business? All right, we're about there. Everybody voted? And if you hit a number twice, it's just the last number that you punched is the one that will be polled. Again, the same identified areas. Where do you spend your days? At work or school or volunteering? All right, thank you. How did you hear about this meeting? And you can vote up to 3. So if you hit 5 numbers on your keypad, it'll be the last 3 that are recorded. So you can pick up to 3 here. You don't have to pick 3. So 1, if you received a postcard, 2, Courier Journal, 3, Metro District Council newsletter, Neighborhood Association, Project Win website, MSD email, Twitter account, MSD Streamline newsletter, flyer, or word of mouth. And you can vote for up to 3. How would you like to learn about these projects? Up to 3 of those alternatives as well. All right, thank you. All right, so let's go on. The next item on the agenda is talk about the project. Some facts about the project, a summary of what we've gathered from the previous meeting and input from online, and the advanced design update that we're here to give this evening. The basin, as we said before, is 8.5 million gallons is the capacity of the basin. It's going to be underground and covered, be grass covered. It will address 3 combined sewer overflow locations. And the level of control on the typical design year is 0 overflows per year. And to put that in perspective, in 2015, there were 128 overflows out of those 3 that resulted in about approximately 88.8 million gallons of combined sewer overflow that went into Middle Fork of Beargrass Creek. So you can see during rain events, it's significant amount of water that is transferred to these streams and creeks when the combined sewer overflows are not contained or captured. Okay, this is just an idea of the CSO basins per the consent decree. Again, we're over here talking about these tonight. There's Logan. There were some downtown. There was a 13th and Rowan, a Story in Maine, and a Lexington and Payne. I don't know if you've heard, but those will now be changed into a deep rock tunnel that will convey and collect and take the place of the 3 basins there. Some might ask, well, why would you extend that tunnel on out to I64 and Grinstead? We're anticipating that question, but we've looked at that and just, again, as stewards of ratepayers' money, all this infrastructure we're paying, the $850 million consent decree, is not by taxpayers' money. It's not from the federal government. It's not somebody in Lexington or someone else in the state paying for it. It's the users of the system here in Jefferson County that pay for that. So every customer who pays a bill is who's paying for this. So we need to be very cognizant of fiscal responsibility. And so as we've looked at that, it just was not economically feasible to extend the tunnel for that. Again, this is the project area, again, pointing out the CSOs, 126, 125, 166, and 127. And again, we've shown the floodplain here to show that it always comes up in these meetings, and even not in meetings, why did you buy the Jim Porter site? Well, the answer is, with all this floodplain and the basin is over in this area, when the contractor is building this over a 2.5 year period, he can't have all his equipment in that floodplain, and every time it looks like it might rain or flood, he would be charging us a lot to get it in and out. So we have a dry area for him to work. When this project is done, then MSD, that will be excess surplus property MSD, and would be sold again to go back into offset ratepayers' money. We've spent the ratepayers' money. We should get more than that back, but we need it as a convenience for this project. Another phase or a portion of this project, or an interesting project it helped reduce the size of this basin. There had been some public output when this project was first envisioned. It was larger than this. You all asked us, could we look at some green infrastructure projects? How could we do something to make the basin smaller? This is one of those efforts that was successful. There's called the CSO 125 Stormwater Separation Project. Again, that is beginning near South Peterson and going up to Stilts Avenue. All this Boyce College area is about 104 acres of drainage. Well, I guess this whole project takes about 104 acres of combined sewer overflow and separates some stormwater out of that. And that's basically about 76 million gallons of flow annually that will not be going into the stormwater or into the sanitary system and being treated at Morris Foreman. So once that stormwater is separated here, it doesn't go into the sewage system for treatment. It will just stay in the storm sewer system and into the wetlands and the creek down in this area. So again, we're not putting that into the system. So that was a big benefit, to not have to design the basin larger. We reduced the size of the basin, and also to separate the projects. Let me go back just for a second. This project will be not constructed at the same time as the basin. It might be concurrent, it might be before. We haven't finalized the design of that. But we will come back and advertise another public meeting to talk about this project. So while it's not what we're talking about tonight, I've identified this as a project, and we will come back as a major project and a success for MSD and for the residents here So we will come back and talk about that project specifically when more information is available. Also in that general area, we specifically targeted, there's an area that has some separate storm sewer system here, but there's a lot of houses that the downspouts were connected to the sanitary system. So we identified those areas. And when I say that, then quite a bit of water can come out of the sanitary combined sewer system. But I don't want to say that nobody else or anybody else in the county is exempt from that or not available to participate in that. It's a program that MSD has throughout the county, and people can participate in that. Those who are watching on Metro TV or participating on the internet, MSD pays $100 per downspout disconnected. A pre and post inspection is performed by MSD, and you can call customer service at 587-0603 and learn more about that program. So not just that particular area, but anywhere where the downspouts you think are connected to the sanitary sewer system, there's a program to pay you to take that off. All right, let's talk about what we've been here before and gotten some feedback on. We had a conceptual design meeting on March of this year, and online was polling through May 13th of this year. There were 42 total participants. And you think about how many hundreds and thousands of people are in this particular area. 42 is not a whole lot, but it's people that are interested, and we're happy to have their feedback. They provided feedback about project factors and site considerations that we presented. MSD used this information to work on our project design, make it better. And the most important items received more emphasis. In other words, those that had the higher vote total. And some items involve future commitments from maybe other agencies that MSD in their charge aren't responsible for, but we would not say, no, it can't be done. It's just not something that we can spend ratepayers' money on. So these are listed in order of the number of votes received. We didn't get the total, didn't tally them. We're not showing the total, we're just listing them in order of what received the most votes. So the green check mark just means those are things that we've been able to incorporate into the project. So number one was to preserve or enhance the existing trail. Secondly was to preserve or enhance the wetlands that are in the area. Tree replacement, green infrastructure for the parking lot, aesthetics of the proposed control building. We'll talk about that in more detail here shortly. And the new trailhead at the parking lot, make it convenient for people who want to use the trail. And bicycle facilities. All right, here's some more items, and let me say that items 12 through 17, just because we don't have a green check mark, it does not mean they're bad ideas, doesn't mean they're ideas that can never be done. They're just ideas that maybe other agencies would have the opportunity to pursue, just not in MSD at this time. So number 8, the stream meanders. We have some stream enhancement. We'll talk about that a little bit. Educational signage along the trail, off-site mitigation for tree loss, site aesthetics during construction, and then the items that maybe have other opportunities, and then these were again down lower on the vote total: lighting for paths, community garden, a dog run or agility field, an athletic field, picnic facilities, and playground. Again, some of those have to do with it's just not in MSD's charge or what we need to be fiscally responsible for the ratepayers that throughout the community for certain things at just one particular project. But we have been able to incorporate many of the items that were suggested. All right, so let's talk about the update on this design. We'll go into some details here. Again, I talked about earlier that the basin is located in a floodplain, that it's going to be a covered basin, be grass on top of it. Again, this laydown area for the contractor during construction will be in this area, formerly Jim Porter's. That's not in a flood-prone area. Let's talk about the features of the plan that we've been able to incorporate.
On that other slide. Pump station. Thank you.
Pump station. The basin fills by gravity, and once it's filled, then once there's capacity in the sewer, we use pumps to get it out of there back into the system. All right, so let's look at this kind of site map. We have a through trail here, goes through the site right by the basin. This kind of hatched area is the underground basin. Again, it'd be grass on top, but that's the boundary of the basin that's underground. 2, there's kind of a loop trail in here. I think the through trail is about 3/10 or 1/3 of a mile. The loop trail itself is about 1/4 of a mile. The trailhead with public parking would be right here. So public parking and then access to the trail right here. 4 would just be a lawn over top of the basin, and over here, over to the side. Existing trail enhancement right here. It's kind of a steep, wet at times, not the safest in the world at times when it rains. So an enhancement would be this alternative to go on this. It's a better grade. Same thing here. So one could avoid this portion of the trail. A rain garden has been incorporated over here that will take water from the parking lot runoff, and it will be go through the rain garden for treatment to clean up before it's discharged. Future MSD urban reforestation program, or program area. MSD has a program, and we could be planting a lot of trees over there in the future. Stream enhancement, it's been brought out before. This is where the old Barrowgrass Creek went, kind of the meandering part. We couldn't really re-establish the meander, but this is an area that does not drain very well at all. The water kind of becomes stagnant there. In fact, there's a CSO right here that just drains into this area, and then it's, again, not a lot of good places to go, and it just kind of stands there. It's kind of a mess. This project will collect from that CSO and connect it to the basin, and we will be regrading the stream through here so that drainage is improved, and again, the CSOs won't be discharging right here, and we'll improve the drainage here, so we're really improving that drainage area of the old stream. And then again, the wetland preservation area over here is part of the project site. And we'll be continuing to coordinate with Metro Parks concerning the Beargrass Creek Trails planning study, so that I'm sure that would be of interest to you all as well. Again, here's kind of a rendering of an aerial view, again showing that would be the underground basin in this area. Here's our control building and parking lot. Again, the trails and the reforestation area and the improvement to the channel over here. Kind of another view from looking from the east, looking west, close to the trailhead area. But there's the parking, the building. You can see the loop trail. It's kind of a layout of that building that we see there. We have to house some of our equipment to operate the pumps. It's kind of a layout of that. But I think what we'd be interested in is what does the facade look like? So I've got, if you don't like this one, don't get upset. I got another one to show you. But if you like this one, we'll get a chance to vote on these. It's kind of alternative A, again, a gable roof, just basically a metal roof, a gable style, and just a basic building, kind of an industrial looking building. But we do have an alternative B, kind of go with the hip roof style. We've got some glass block windows that allow some light into the building. We've got some canopies over the doorways. Again, this would be, if you're in the parking lot looking towards the basin, this is what you would see. And then this is on the back side if you're over around where the basin is, looking back towards the parking lot, and in kind of a side elevation. It's a CMU walls with a masonry facade and a standing seam gable metal roof. So again, if you take out your clickers, if you have an opinion on those, you could say you like alternative A or alternative B, or you're neutral on that. So go ahead and vote at this time. I'd like to have your input. Again, we will be taking polling on the internet for the next few weeks, so we'd like the input. If you know friends or neighbors that haven't been able to attend these meetings, if you tell them if they go online, this presentation will be on there and they can vote at that time as well. What about strengths of the overall design? So this is a time where we can get comments from the audience, what you do like or don't like about that. Well, I just say strengths, so I'm assuming that's positive. So what did you like about the overall design of not just the building, but the trail, the parks, the trailhead, the things you've heard so far? We'd like a list of things that you think are strengths of that design, and we'll capture those right now. Yes, sir.
On the wetlands preservation area, I understand part of the meander of the old creek bed, that was part of it. The area that's now an open area right now that used to have the radio tower on, is that above floodplain, or is that at is that in a floodplain, or is that above the level?
I believe it's in the floodplain.
So that in the past at the radio tower, the base might have been flooded? Okay, so that, basically, okay, that tells me that, yes, retaining that as a wetland is a good thing.
Okay. So wetland retention. Anything else? Yes, sir?
Is the old trail, will that remain open?
Yes.
Will it suit you?
Yes.
Let's say-
It'd just be an alternative, somebody could take a different route if they chose to.
It will be temporarily closed though for construction. There will be times that it will be closed. When we choose contractors selected, when they have come up with their schedule and you know, do the construction phasing, and we'll reach out to that, up to that point, and then there'll be signage, letting them know we won't have people going down the hill.
Yeah, during construction, and again, if you couldn't hear the question about notification, will the old trail be closed? During construction, there may be some times, and we'll have signage, we'll have our public meeting ahead of time, so we'll have communications as we're going through the construction as well. One thing I failed to mention when we looked at the site plan is that we would be doing trenchless design, not an open cut, so it would be a bore or a tunnel underneath Grinstead Drive, and that would extend. There's some wetlands at the existing trail right by Grinstead. There's also a big rock outcropping right there. If we were to do open cut through there, all that would be kind of, the trees would be gone, the wetlands would be dug through, and then that natural rock outcropping would have been destroyed or harmed. So we've elected to go trenchless from underneath the east side of Grinstead all the way to past the rock outcropping. I should have brought that out earlier, but I think that's another enhancement or something that that we were cognizant of to not destroy some other things during construction. Yes, Lisa.
So the alternative trail is through the site, and now it'll be now a more gradual grade change.
Yes.
To get down there.
Right.
Yeah, you can't, yeah. So you almost, I guess, I don't know how much longer it gets. It gets twice as long.
Yeah, we had a lot of length because we held ADA compliance, so it's got
So that's, I mean, that's nice.
Okay, so the new trail configuration for access.
Yeah, and the parking lot is.
In the parking lot for
Even
use,
Jim Porter
public use.
/ Park, they were fenced away from being able to go clean up the trail or anything, so that's definitely a plus.
Mhm. All right. Anything else? We can move on. Thank you. You get those captured? All right, so are we going to vote on these?
Yes.
You can vote on these. Let's see, of those things, strengths,
Pick the top three.
pick the top 4 if you want to. Yeah, let's pick your top 2.
What did you mean by wetland retention?
The fact that this construction is not destroying those wetlands, it's retaining those. Now, kind of conversely, any concerns about the overall design that we've talked about? So we'll list those and we'll take some opinions on that. Any concerns? Yes, sir.
On the site plan, kind of off to the right-hand side where the parking lot is and stuff like that, it looks like you'd have, if you wanted to do as much of the original trail, you'd have to go to that steep grade that's all slick and slimy and stuff like that. There's not a connection on that end to the original trail.
Yes, there is.
I didn't see it.
Can I go back to that slide? We'll go back to that slide, but there is a connection. Where the parking, there's a trailhead that gets you to the trail that you can either go on the new trail and it will connect to the old trail. So you have access to the old trail or the new trail right there.
Okay.
Okay, any other concerns? Yes, ma'am.
Is there any public, part of the building, will there be restrooms or anything like that at that parking lot?
Currently, there are not restrooms as part of that building, no, for public. Okay. We got to have some more concerns, or this is going to be the number 1. Yes, ma'am.
Will the parking lot have impervious surface?
I think it's impervious, but we are capturing that so that that runoff goes through the rain garden. Good question, though. There is some, along that line though, I didn't highlight it, but there are some hatched areas that's around the basin where it's buried. MSD needs access to some hatches that might be there. So we do have some green pavers there where grass grows up through, so our trucks would be able to use it as a surface to drive on, as what you're saying, kind of a green area. So we do incorporate that, just not in the public portion for public parking, but for MSD vehicular access. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if it doesn't exactly fit with this question, but once this is all done, who's going to maintain this? Is this going to be an MSD public recreation area, or are you all looking to the Parks Department to take it up?
As we've laid it out tonight, MSD would be responsible for maintaining this particular site. Some of those things that we said, other agency opportunities, if they step up and the public wants some other things done there, depending on what, you know, I'm no attorney, but either liabilities, who's responsible for this or that, there may be some transferring of who might be responsible. But as I've laid it out for this passive recreation where people can use the trail, MSD would be responsible for that. If we come up with some agreement with parks about who might maintain the walking path or something like that, that's something we could work out with MSD, with parks. But as far as mowing and that type of thing, planting the trees, that's MSD at this time.
Is there a lot of tree canopy plan?
Again, MSD has a program for how many trees? Anybody know the number? We have a reforestation program where there's so many.
For this project?
Yeah, if we're going to be putting some trees in that reforestation area. Yes, sir.
The, I don't know if this pertains to this or not, but the old Jim Porter site, is there any thought of design, green design going in there as opposed to just moving out and turning it back over to somebody else? I mean, is there expanding the connection to the Cherokee Park, that area, by moving more green space into that area as opposed to just putting it back into commercial use?
I don't know that that decision has been made, but I can say probably fiscally it would be responsible to say we paid a commercial price for that property, and fiscally we should probably get that back for our ratepayers. Again, that's a decision that we've made to purchase that property to make it easier on the contractor to build this site. Decisions about the disposal of that afterwards, I could say we have an intention at this point, but I don't know that it's totally decided or that what could be done. But I do know it would be consistent that it would be surplus property for which it would be open market. It's not designated. Nobody has a deposit on it. Nobody has rights to it. It would be a transparent process for us to dispose of that property.
We can add that.
Pardon me?
What's going to be left over to sell? How many acres?
So what's the size of the Jim Porter property?
What would be left after you all are finished with it to sell?
The whole property is going to be.
We're not subdividing it or anything. It'd be whatever we bought. It's the same parcel.
Yeah, but, so Jim Porter's, none of that property was actually where you're going to put the basin. It's just the laydown area?
For access.
So whatever Jim Porter's was before, that's what.
Right.
you're bringing
It's a
back.
parcel of itself that we're not changing the boundary of. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I guess, I don't know if this is separate or the same as number two, but to, you know, maybe even require in a sales contract that, you know, green methods be used to capture stormwater and things like that.
That's part of the ordinance now, so that would be required of any development on that site. All right, we've got 5 here. Let's take our clickers and let's vote for the top 3. Wait, we can't do it yet. We gotta wait till I get a green light up here. There we go, now we can go. Top 3. All right. Okay, interesting. Okay, so where are we gonna go from here? As again, tonight we've talked about the advanced design. We've taken some input now. We will have this polling online for the next few weeks. We'll take some input from that. If there's additional things that we can incorporate, we'll certainly do that. So we'll be finalizing the total design. We'll be continuing to coordinate with project partners such as Metro Parks. In our future public outreach, the next time you'll hear from us will be for our Pardon Our Dust meeting. It'll be prior to construction starting. We will have our contractor selected. He or she will be here at this meeting, and we'll talk about schedule, contact information, what to expect, and entertain other questions at that time about construction. It should start about next summer, so our Pardon Our Dust meeting or our public meeting for pre-construction to be late spring, early summer. We should, by the consent decree, we have to be done by December 31st of 2020. Right now we're planning on being done in the spring of 2020. So you can attend the Pardon Our Dust meeting next year. We'll be sending out emails, flyers, will be in the Streamline newsletter. Notification for that meeting. So when we come back for that, is there anything, questions that you think you might already know that you want to ask at that time that we should be prepared to answer? Yes, sir.
How are you going to protect Beargrass Creek during the construction?
Okay, it's a great question.
Stuff is not going into the creek during the construction.
Okay, how do we protect the water quality of Beargrass Creek during construction? Yes, Councilman?
Will there be blasting during the project?
Okay, blasting. I can answer that tonight. There will be some blasting. But we'll address that even more at the pre-construction. People want to know what to expect with that. And we've had some experience with some other basins, even in your district, with blasting. So I want to make sure you got our Pardon Our Dust meeting too. Yes, ma'am.
Can you maybe back up just a little bit, because it seems like we're going to be wrapping this up. Can you give a little more information about why things changed so drastically from the last couple of meetings and why the overall project is now this deep tunnel project? It seems like you've mentioned it, but it's kind of hard for some of us to understand how it went from, what was a completely different thing to this 200-foot deep tunnel that's going to be.
I'll be happy to answer that question. If we can get through this slide, I can give more time to that, but we'll stay on this topic right now, then I'll get into that. Anything else, Justin?
The bicycle and pedestrian trail, the contractor they'll be able to answer, or should be ready to answer how often, how long will the trail be closed during the construction, what time of year. Obviously, summertime is used more often than wintertime, but that may be when they need to close it. But how often, how much advance notice?
Gotcha.
All those questions.
Duration and times for trail closure, signage, how notified. Okay, that's a great question. Yes, ma'am?
Back to your blasting question, on the basis of the Clifton Heights blasting, the amount of people who were notified of the imminent blasting was too small. The people who actually felt it were in a much wider area. So MSD needs to think about letting a much wider area know when they're going to be blasting.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Will this construction affect traffic patterns or?
There's no closures planned for Lexington Road. When we do that portion of CSO 125, is that what it is, on Grinstead Drive, or there by Peterson, there'll be some disruption of traffic during that time. But again, as I said earlier, we'll come back with another public meeting about that particular phase of the project, separate from the Basin project. Yes, sir?
Now, will you all be working with the overall Beargrass Creek project to incorporate how this is going to incorporate into that overall
Yes.
project?
All right, well, thank you for helping pre-populate that, and if we have more questions at the pre-construction meeting, that would be fine as well. Okay, might as well vote on your top 5 of these. Wait just a minute. Okay, now we can. So, you can vote on your top 3. But we'll address all of them when we come back. But let's just see where the interest is on the top 3. All right, How satisfied are you with this feedback method, using the clickers, the public outreach, and being on the internet where you can still have input? Just rate that 1 through 9. That's a whole lot of shades of opinion there, but 1 through 9. Vote for 1. All right, I'm going to close the polling. All right, good. Thank you. Okay, as always, for general information or emergencies as it concerns MSD, public safety, as it relates to sewers, storm sewers, flood protection systems, 502-587-0603. We're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So please do not hesitate to call us with anything. Again, msdprojectwin.org. Again, is where you can find public input for these presentations. Again, this survey will be online for the next few weeks. I'll give you a minute if you want to write that down. All right, well, thank you so much, and I'll take this time now to answer the lady's question about the tunnel situation. And so you've heard about the tunnel. There were 3 basins, 13th and Round, which is downtown, just west of the 9th Street interchange, 3 blocks west, 13th and Round. That collected about 12 or 13 CSOs in the downtown business district from about 13th and Round over to maybe, I don't know, 5th and Main, that area. The routing of those and the location of those would have disrupted the actual downtown urban businesses there in front of the Center for the Arts and all that. It had been a great disruption to the community for a couple of years in terms of daily business down there. Whereas some of the areas, now we're all in an urban or suburban area, that was right in the heart of the financial area of downtown and the government area of downtown. So the inconvenience for people at that time and the disruption would have been quite extensive. At 13th and Main, or at Story and Main, that's over in the Butchertown area. Again, we were on the wet side of the flood wall, but that basin was originally planned to be above ground. As we had public meetings, people didn't like it above ground. They wanted it to be underground. So when we added the money to put it underground, it increased the cost of that particular basin substantially. Moving on to Lexington and Payne, moving further east, that site from the beginning, we've been transparent that was the old River Metal site. There was a lot of contamination in that soil, water, and therefore in the water. Again, that was going to be an underground basin, but there are a lot of things that have to be done to mitigate that site when you're on a contaminated site. So when you take the disruption of downtown with the 13th and Round and the high expense of working downtown in Main Street, and then you add the added cost of lowering the basin below grade at Story and Main, and then the difficulties at Lexington and Payne with that site. Again, this is not having to do anything with I64 and Grinstead, which is what we're talking about tonight, but your question's about the tunnel. Other communities, for example, that tunnel will be about a couple miles long, deep. It's a deep rock tunnel, 200 feet deep. Communities such as Indianapolis they're in the process of finishing up a 28-mile tunnel system in rock that is very similar to what we have here, and they have very success. They set some world records in terms of tunneling progress. So in the last 20, 30, 40 years, tunneling technology has become more prevalent, more contractors, it's been more readily acceptable. It's not ideal for every situation, but when we looked at it here, we'll have a shaft at the beginning down at 13th and Round, and once that tunnel machine's in the ground, there's no blasting, nobody knows where it's at, we're not disrupting traffic downtown, and we'll be connecting those CSOs to that tunnel system. Going back to the cost, when we said if we lowered the basin at Story and Main and then the difficulties at Lexington and Payne, the tunnel was very cost competitive to those. So we weren't paying more money for that. It was an equal trade-off. But it didn't work out to extend it as far as I64 and Grinstead in terms of a cost financial basis. So we're not paying extra for doing that, and we're actually doing less inconvenience to the traffic and to interruptions downtown. So again, I believe we're trying to be fiscally responsible, and we're not so far on a limb that it's technology that is so wild and cutting edge that it's risky. It's a lot of geotechnical investigation. Again, there's 60 to 100 feet of rock over top of the tunnel. The tunnel will be lined, and again, as technology is done, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, it's been done all around the world actually. Yes, ma'am.
What is the route? You start at 13th and Rowan, then where does it go underground?
Well, it goes east and out, actually comes through like Buchanan Street, Franklin Street, by our Starkey pump station. And then over, comes out, you know where the truck wash is, close to, on the other side of the Beargrass Creek from Home of the Innocents? That's the terminus of the tunnel. So here's 13th and Rowan. There was a basin at 13th and Rowan, planned. There was a basin at Story and Main and at Lexington and Payne. The downtown basin collected these 12 or 13 CSOs all the way to Main Street, or I'm sorry, 5th and Main. Then over at Story and Main, there was a couple of CSOs over here, and then there was 8 or 9 over here at Lexington and Payne. Those emptied into Beargrass Creek. The tunnel will be about 200 feet deep, starting here, and we'll just tunnel about this route, come over by the Starkey pump station, and then terminate over by, again, the truck wash close to the Home of the Innocents on the other side of Beargrass Creek. So that's the location of the tunnel.
So is that under Waterfront Park?
Yes, part of it is. 200 feet below. You never know it's there. It's below the aquifer. It's in solid rock. I mean, we've done rock testing. There's no fissures in that rock. It's very solid rock. So if we found anything else, it wouldn't be feasible. So we've done that. We don't want to foolishly spend money there. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little confused about whether the basin that we're talking about today covers 3 CSOs or 4, because one of the written screens said 3, but then there was another map that showed 4, and this, anyway, that was confusing.
Okay, there's,
Yeah, go
ahead and take it.
So there's 3 CSOs that contribute flow to the basin as part of this project. The 4 CSOs in the general area, and it's being handled with internal modifications to the CSO structure. So as part of the overall project, there is 4 CSOs, 125, 126, 127, and 166, but only 3 of those will contribute their flows to the basin. The other one is just being modified, so it stores more water, or stores more sewage in the
Is that the
in
one
line.
that you were saying there would be another meeting about? Because you mentioned something.
Now, that's one we're just separating stormwater from.
Because I'm interested in hearing more about that we'll have a meeting and
Yes.
explain that in more detail.
Yes.
So which CSO is not contributing to the station?
126 is the one that's not contributing to the basin.
And somebody wanted to see the site plan again, and I think.
Okay, anybody have any other questions on this?
Had MSD already acquired the sites for those CSO, so for those retention basins, or?
We had not, we were in negotiations and did not complete any negotiations or purchase of the Lexington and Payne, the old River Metals property. We had purchased the 13th and Rowan, but we need that anyway to start for the tunnel. And we had already purchased the one at, by the Starkey pump station, but we need that for a laydown area as well. You can see there's a kind of a turn in the tunnel there, so, and we do have CSO there, so we do need that as well. Yes, sir.
So are those CSOs that tunnel is going to take downtown, and where they somehow dump into that tunnel?
Yes, there will be these CSOs predominantly are on the north side of Main Street. The original plan was to do a microtunnel or open cut even Main Street to connect those, but they are already north, which is kind of downhill towards the river. So to get those back to Main Street, it was going to be super deep. We were going to have to be, and a lot of the foundations downtown of those old buildings come out to the middle of Main Street. So you run a lot of risk of, the old structures and that type of thing. So now what will happen is we will use a lot of the existing infrastructure that already heads down towards the river. These are CSOs where they leave the system and go down towards the river. So what we'll have is a kind of an interceptor pipe down on the low end. We won't be kind of up in the urban Main Street area, and we'll collect those, and there'll be a couple places where we have a drop shaft into the tunnel. So it's a lot better, a lot less disruption to traffic while we're building those downtown.
What would they look like on the surface?
You won't see anything different on the surface. All right, let's go to the site plan again. Somebody had some questions about that?
Number 5, see where number 5 is? That's where it joins in the.
Yeah, here's the parking.
All the way back up and then going back down that nasty grade, that, where it shows right now, that's that nasty.
That's an
grade.
alternative.
There's the existing, and then here's the proposed, which would be a much shallower grade for people to get back up to this elevation. You know, you could go straight down through there, but that would be a lot steeper.
Ma'am?
Sure.
But isn't this right here very steep to get down to this level?
Right.
It is,
So why can't there be a connection somewhere from here to kind of bypass this?
Well, there's rock out property. It'd be even steeper.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not?
Twenty foot drop off.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
can you go to the slide that shows, it's like an ISO, it's like a, I think it's an ISO.
Next.
Not the next one. Yeah, that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're looking north,
We're looking west. We're on the east side.
west.
There's a drive off of Lexington Road. There's your parking. There's our control building.
You talked about permeable pavers that you were gonna put out for your,
Yeah, they're right here. So the section of this trail here will be built more heavier duty, so MSD trucks could use that. But so access from here to here, see this kind of darker hatched area? Those would be grassy pavers so that our vehicles could have access to the basin.
and what is the area that you all, that MSD will be retaining?
Well, we own all of this property. Well, we are either in possession of or acquiring all of this property. And this will be sold off later, or a surplus property later.
Will there be public access of any kind to the wetland preservation area, or will that just be?
Well, to the extent anybody wants to walk off the trail and get down that way, I guess, sure. It's been all great questions. I hope you all feel like you've learned something tonight and have been informed, and come back and see us at our Partner Dust meeting. Any other questions before we adjourn?
For reference, compare this basin to the Logan Street Basin as far as size.
Logan Street is about 17 million gallons, is that right, William? And this was 8.5 million gallons, so it's about half. Yes, sir.
There was some reference to an overall Beargrass Creek plan that this gentleman mentioned. I wasn't aware, what does that mean?
I think that's all part of the trail system and the creek. Somebody else could, I do know that we're talking about that.
Metro Parks and some other organizations are working to connect this Beargrass Creek Trail all the way down to where Beargrass Creek enters into the Ohio. So it would have access with stream enhancements and trail enhancements all the way from here. So you could literally get on this trail and connect all the way down to where it dumps into the Ohio.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about Logan Street. Will there be more public meetings about Logan Street?
Yes.
Because
As it relates to the surface, how we leave the surface, because it was above ground, now it's below ground. There'll be some more public input on the above ground portion.
so everyone that was at that big public meeting will be notified.
If they signed up, yes, or any other, and we'll have our other methods of notifying the residents in the neighborhood as well. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your time. Have a good evening.